Double down. A fire team that fights together stays together. Tell them to love. 2-for-1. Triple down.
So guys, in this video we're going to be taking a look at my first ever Ether Doctor. But first, guys, a quick word from today's sponsor before we get into the video, Raid Shadow Legends. If you're tired of fluffy and cartoony looking cutesy bootsy RPG games, look no further than Raid Shadow Legends. Dark, real and gritty, it takes the fantasy action to another level. My favorite thing to do in the game, well, you can see right here, we are firing up a game of PvP, tactical battles against other players, pitting your champions against theirs, building your deck to be as strong as possible, make the right moves in the heat of battle, and you too can achieve victory just like me. Challenge yourself to your edge in the ongoing tournaments, compete against the entire raid community while fighting the Spider's Den, Ice Golem's Peak, the Almighty Fire Knight, or the Notorious Dragon. And now in Raid, patch 1.15 is coming in May, and with it you'll be able to compete in the brand new Arena tournament, earn points according to your tier, and win awesome rewards in the local and global tournaments. So what are you waiting for? Go to the video description, click on the special links, and if you are a new player, you'll get 100,000 silver plus one free champion, Jotun. He is an epic champion and he is a really strong one, and he'll really help you to get going in the beginning stages of the campaign. All of this treasure will be waiting for you here. Top right hand corner you can see the little treasure chest. Click there and you will get your rewards. New players will find their rewards available for the next 30 days. So if you guys want to get your hands on these rewards, you've got 30 days. Don't miss out. Raid Shadow Legends. So here is the first ever Ether Doctor role I've ever had. Went into that lost sector in the Winding Cove, killed the boss a bunch of times, and this is the first one I ever got, and I'm feeling pretty lucky right now, not gonna lie. Pretty damn good roll for my first ever one, would you not agree? Tempted to call it a god roll, but the handling masterwork and the magazine perk kinda, held me back from saying that. But we can see the perks right here. We have moving target, dynamic sphere reduction, and of course, armor piercing rounds, everybody's favorite, dust sight D1, and a handling masterwork. Now, why was I so interested in getting an Ether Doctor? I was getting a lot of questions on stream when I decided to farm for it. I think people were just generally confused seeing DFP in a lost sector farming for a weapon. Fun fact, I've never done that before because I believe the only other farmable weapon from a lost sector that people really wanted was a Dustrock Blues, and I never farmed for a Dustrock Blues. I just kind of used Chaperone, and I think doing a couple of spider bounties here and there, I managed to get a few Dustrocks to drop randomly for me anyway, right? So like I said, yeah, I've never been much of a lost sector guardian. That being said, I thought it was time to get an Ether Doctor. Why? Well, it's real simple really. I wanted a good, kinetic 600 RPM auto rifle that was year 3. And essentially, this is the only one that I can think of. I don't know if there's any other ones I'm missing, someone can let me know in the comment section. But I'm pretty sure Ether Doctor is the only kinetic 600 RPM auto rifle that you can put mods on, and has the current masterwork system and all of that kind of thing. And the reason why I wanted it is so I could pair it with different types of exotics. You can see here in this gameplay, we were rocking the Taraba with the Ether Doctor. So basically with the Taraba, you kind of only use the Taraba, right? But in the case that I do need to switch off my Taraba, I had something pretty competitive and pretty meta in my back pocket ready to go, and that would be the Ether Doctor. Obviously with it being a 600 RPM, has an incredibly good time to kill of 0.7 seconds, and it's just kind of deadly. Obviously for me, Suros Regime, Monte Carlo, definitely better than Ether Doctor, but obviously they are exotics. And in this case in particular, I wanted to use Taraba. In the gameplay before you saw, I wanted to use Fighting Lion. So like I said, Ether Doctor is ideal for that. But now to get into the nitty gritty of it, how good is the Ether Doctor on its own? In the gameplay you see here on Pantheon, I was just rocking a CQC shoddy, nothing special going on in my loadout. I kind of really just wanted to focus on the auto rifle and see how it could hang. And well, you guys already know this, right? Basically any 600 RPM auto rifle is nasty right now. 0.7 second time to kill, very strong, hit all your headshots, not much recoil. Well, there's a little bit of recoil, but generally not too much recoil, especially with moving target and dynamic sway. You know, the weapon is very sticky, and we were kind of just slaying out with the Ether Doctor. However, I do know that there is a question people want answering, probably as they're watching this video. How good is it compared to its colleagues, you know? So if we're talking about its colleagues, we're talking about Surus Regime, Monte Carlo, obviously you've got Hardlight, then the legendary counterparts, which are what really interests me. Legendaries, you know, in the energy slot, how do they compare to the Ether Doctor? Well, in my opinion, they are all better than the Ether Doctor. And which ones am I talking about? I am talking about the Galliard, I am talking about the Gnawing Hunger, and I am talking about the Summoner. Now, there are pros and cons to all of these weapons. When it comes to Gnawing Hunger, my personal favorite, I think for sure, it's probably the hardest one to farm. It's only available on certain weeks. It's the tier 3. There's so many other things in the loot pool when you go to farm a Gnawing Hunger. The chances of getting one are slim, and therefore your chances of getting one with a good roll are slimmer still. So Gnawing Hunger, I guess, is at a real disadvantage when it comes to that sort of thing. You can say the same thing really about the Galliard. It's really difficult to farm. Some people say it drops like candy, but for me, whenever I go into the forges, I do not get very many. I got one decent one with dynamic sway and pulse monitor, and that's it. Now, obviously the Summoner, on the other hand, is very farmable, provided you can get a couple of wins in trials, and I've basically been through every possible role that you can get on the Summoner, but the Summoner has a deal breaker for me, and that is that big chunky sight. I just don't like that sight. But if you're looking at it objectively, the Summoner is probably better than the Forward Path. So what does the Forward Path have going for it? Well, unlike the Summoner, unlike Galliard, unlike Gnawing Hunger, you can go for this weapon and try and farm for it whenever you want. And yeah, the chances of getting it, the drop rate in Lost Sectors isn't very high, but at the same time, it is very, very easy to kill that dude in the Lost Sector, and therefore it is very easy to constantly roll the dice at a chance of getting one. So I suppose if you were really dedicated to getting yourself an Ether Doctor, and you put a few hours aside and went into that Lost Sector, you would probably get yourself a bunch of Ether Doctors with a bunch of different roles. The perk pool on the Ether Doctor, not too bad at all. Obviously, I think I got one of the best roles you can get for it, with a combination of dynamic sway and moving target. However, whilst both of those perks are very, very good, my personal favorite perk to go for on an auto rifle is Tap the Trigger, and Ether Doctor can roll Tap the Trigger, and the role I wanted was Tap the Trigger and Rampage, and then I probably would have stuck a Rampage spec mod on the weapon to increase that time where you have Rampage, and Tap the Trigger, you know, with that increased accuracy on your first trigger pull, I find to be so good for the consistency of any auto rifle basically. Obviously I didn't get that, and I haven't tried a Tap the Trigger Ether Doctor yet, so I can't speak on how it feels compared to my Gnawing Hunger with Tap the Trigger, but just based on using the weapon, I would say it's a very good gun. I'd give this a 7 or an 8 out of 10. Maybe with a Tap the Trigger, it would go to 9 out of 10. But based on the general feeling of the weapon's stability and whatnot, I don't think even with Tap the Trigger, it would match the level of stability that my Gnawing Hunger currently has. And also, the one thing that I would say is a major negative, and again, this is all, you know, personal preference, but for me, the one major downfall to the Ether Doctor, and basically any of these Tangle Shore weapons like Right Side of Wrong, Ether Doctor, and any others that you can get, the Misfit, I believe, it's the sights, dude. These King Dot Dusk sights, or whatever the hell they're called, they suck. I hate these sights. They just don't feel very good to me. And if I could put a different type of sight on this weapon, I'd probably love it a hell of a lot more. I don't know what it is, man. I just really do not like these sights. I never have since they've been available. Since Forsaken, I have just never liked these sights, guys. So that's my major complaint. The sight isn't great. That being said, the consistency and lethality of the Ether Doctor is really nice. The only kinetic 600 RPM auto rifle in the game that's year 3 enabled, so I would recommend going for it, boys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video.